illegally driving in the US as a Canadian or a Mexican driver. We need to understand what these rules are, okay? So there's a lot of talk right now about illegal truck drivers or truck drivers that are coming into the US under a B1 visa. So a B1 visa is a visitor's visa. All right, so as a Canadian with a Canadian fleet, I gotta tell you what the rules are, and the same rules that apply to us apply to Mexican drivers or Mexican fleets. So we Canadian companies are allowed to come into the US. So we have freight that originated in Canada. The freight goes into the US. We do a delivery, then we do a pickup in the US, and the only place that we're allowed to deliver is back in Canada. So we are not allowed to take anything from the US and deliver to the US. So I can't take a load in Illinois and deliver it in Pennsylvania. I'm not allowed to do anything like that. The drivers that we have a B1 visa, which is a visitor's visa, all right? So he is a Canadian truck driver working for a Canadian company, and then the truck driver goes into the US as a visitor. He's not really working there. He's not employed in the US. He delivers the freight. He picks up the goods that are manufactured in the US and comes back to Canada to deliver it. Now, the same rules apply for Mexican truck drivers. So Mexican truck drivers are allowed to do the same thing. They can cross into the US, they can deliver in the US, pick up in the US, and then deliver back into Mexico. So there's a lot of hype right now and a lot of talk about American fleets hiring Mexican drivers with their B1 visitor visa, and what they're doing is they're doing interstate loads, taking away the loads from the American truck drivers. Now, this is a very big problem, and in most cases, that fleet would get banned, or their authorities would get banned if they get caught. Now, they're saying that there's a lot more companies that are doing this right now. I know, as a company, you kind of have a decision to make, will you do this or will you not do this? I know that much smaller fleets might do it. I've heard a lot about it, but larger fleets, I don't think would take a risk doing that or getting kicked out of the US. And our whole business rides on, being able to go into the US, because our Canadian freight goes into the US and the US freight that we're picking up goes into Canada. So if I ever got banned from the US or coming into the US as a fleet, this would cripple my entire company and I can basically just shut it down. Hey, do you have an app, product, device, or technology that can benefit our North American truck drivers? Well, guess what? You can become a featured sponsor in one of our next videos. With a vast community of over 450,000 truck drivers across all our platforms and an impressive 9 million monthly views, I can definitely bring your product out to the spotlight. You want to be a part of our community? Join all these companies that have already partnered with us. Interested? Well, email me at sponsorships@ettransport.ca. And now, back to that video. The second biggest problem that I see with interstating as a Canadian or as a Mexican is it's not fair for American drivers. What do I mean by it's not fair? So a Mexican driver, or the US and Canadian currency, the US is about 35% stronger than the Canadian currency. So $1 US is actually $1.35 Canadian. Our drivers here get paid 65 cents Canadian, where American drivers would get 65 cents American. So if an American company hired a Canadian driver, then they would benefit from having lower wages, right? Because 65 cents Canadian is probably equivalent to about 53, 52 cents US. So if an American company hires Canadian drivers, then they would have a competitive advantage over other American companies. Now, I don't know what truck drivers get paid in Mexico, but I can just guess that it's a lot lower than what Canadian drivers make. So that probably, their pay would probably be 20, 25 cents per mile. Now, if a company in the US or if a Mexican company was to go into the US, then they would be a lot more competitive, meaning that they can, for them, they would be laughing at $1.80, $1.90 per mile, because they'd be very profitable, because their expense for truck drivers would be a lot less. So in short, I really hope that the US cracks down on it. I think it would be better for all of the US if they crack down. Again, I'm not just blaming Mexican companies or Mexican fleets. I feel like there's a lot of Canadian fleets that might do the same thing, right? So I think that the US should crack down more on it. There should definitely be public forums where, information is handed off to the MTO, the DOT, to the officers, and they crack down on companies that are doing this. I also feel that both in Canada and the US, we need to tighten down on our rules and regulations and actually enforce rules and enforce our regulations. So hopefully, the trucking space would be a much better space if everybody just follows the rules, and a much safer road it would be if everybody just follows the rules. But hey, what do you guys think about the topic? Are you guys getting affected? Do you see a lot of Mexican Mexican drivers doing interstate loads? I mean, I understand when you see Mexican drivers in the US, you might automatically assume that they're doing, interstate loads. But has anybody actually seen Mexican drivers doing interstate loads? And how would you know what the person's status is in the US? I mean, here in Canada, it's legal to ask somebody for what their status is. I don't know why, but you can't come up to anybody and ask them what their status is. You can't come up to anybody and ask them for anything these days anymore. Not only us, I think the MTO and the DOT don't even have the legal right to ask somebody for their status. I mean, that's some stuff that really needs to change, right? But hey, that's just my opinion. What do you guys think about it? Leave some comments down below. I'm Ronen, and I'll catch you in my next one.